everybody, this is Nate doing another one of these P2K peaks in New Mexico. The one I'm attempting today is Placer Mountain near Santa Fe in the Ortiz Mountains Educational Preserve, which is owned by Santa Fe County and is public land. Before I go much further, I want to explain that do not take me showing you this hike as an endorsement, a recommendation, encouragement, none of those things to do this hike. And the reason why I say that is access to this area is pretty murky. Later I might talk a little bit about the history of this preserve, or at the very least put it in the description below. But I feel fairly confident saying that right now I'm on public land, taxpayer-owned land. I live in Santa Fe County, so my taxes pay for this preserve to exist. And but you should know that again, I'm not encouraging you to come out here. If you do come out here, just be respectful to private property. It's just be respectful to private property. I mean, don't take anything, don't poke around where you shouldn't poke around, don't leave no trace, basically. I'm not filming anything that I don't believe with pretty high certainty to be public land. History of this area, as the name of the peak would imply, is pretty interesting. Placer Peak. For those who don't know, a placer is kind of like a mining method. And so Placer Peak gets its name from the nearby mines. And this area has a pretty significant mining history that, from what I've read, supposedly stretches back to the 1680s with the Spanish. And obviously, we're talking, this is near the Turquoise Trail, which, if you're not familiar with New Mexico, or maybe you're new to New Mexico, or you're not familiar with northern, central New Mexico, look at the Turquoise Trail. It's a really cool road trip, a lot of cool history. But obviously, the Native Americans, indigenous people in the area have been mining in this area for a long time. But the name Ortiz Mountains comes from the fact that supposedly in the 1800s, a shepherd by the name of Ortiz discovered gold here and laid a mining claim. And mining still happens to this day. There's a gold mine next door, which again, be respectful of private property. Do not decide that you're gonna go hunt for gold next door if somehow you find yourself over here. But with that said, the preserve has more or less been closed since like 2015. Again, it's very murky what the access rights are, but you can't drive up to the preserve, that's for sure. So I'm gonna probably try to do most of my talking while I'm still at the relative base of the mountain, just because it is super windy. Right here it's not bad, but it's been really warm the last week. It's like an early spring pattern, and winter wasn't having it. Kind of wants to claw its way back. It snowed a tiny bit overnight, nothing stuck, but I had quite the luck. Every time I leave for one of these hikes, it's snowing in the morning in Santa Fe, even when it's not really supposed to. So it's snowing this morning, very windy. You can see some snow on the ground, but not a lot. It's a little cooler than it was the last week, but I wouldn't call it cold. It's really just windy, and that makes it a little brisk. But there is supposed to be a trail to the top of this mountain, but based on what I've read, this trail hasn't been maintained in 7 years, and who knows what quality it was in then. I would think that it'll be intermittent is kind of what I'm expecting. This mountain on the P2K list north of I-40, it's actually sort of statistically interesting. For one, I think it's now this is the subset of P2Ks that are north of I-40. So I believe it's the furthest south of that subset. I could be wrong about that. It's definitely the lowest elevation and the lowest prominence. Not only is it the lowest elevation, it's the only peak below 9,000 feet north of I-40 on the list. And it's the only peak less than 10,000 feet north of I-40 on the list. So this is a strange mountain, statistically. And on top of that, it's sort of the closest mountain to Santa Fe. So, you know, I mapped out from my house and from what I think is roughly the geographical center of Santa Fe. Placer Mountain is the closest. It barely edges out Truchas Peak by like a mile or two. So I lost the trail, but then I did some navigating, found these cairns. So this must be a trail. All right, well, the end is in sight. We actually made pretty good time. Once I got to the trail, most of the mileage was just been getting to the trail. Climbing up is, I mean, it's steep. It's hard to navigate, a lot of down trees, but nothing I'd call hard or technical. There's a little bit, you can't really see it. Section I just passed, there was a little bit of some rock scrambling. I barely caught class 2, but class 2. Show you the peak. See, it's that one. So we're pretty close. I was thinking about stopping for water, but I'm only like 200 vertical feet from the top. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna keep going and have some water up there. It's getting cloudy. I'm not really worried about rain or storms or anything really. I don't think it's gonna dump snow even if it does start snowing, but obviously the views will be better if there aren't clouds around the peak. It might be a little windy, it might be a little chilly. There might be a chance of snow, but it is making it beautiful. You can see a lot, we're not even at the top yet. San Antonio Mountain, right here. So of course that was where I was 2 weeks ago. And I thought I could make out this peak. Sure enough, you can. All right, well, I've made it to the summit ridge. I don't know if I'm actually at the summit yet. That looks a little bit higher. So I'm gonna go walk over there and then call it a victory. But I don't know if I took a bad route or if the mountain just really tests your determination. But the last like 50 vertical feet was a huge pain. It was like armpit high Gamble Oak strands and class 2 climbs simultaneously. So I'm like on my hands and knees, you know, while I'm also in Gamble Oak. It was not fun. But yeah, let's finish out the peak. The cairn. Let's go. Try to hold the camera while not sitting on a cactus. Okay, I'm gonna put the camera away. Okay, after getting stabbed 100 times in the inner thigh by an agave, I made it to the top. Just incredible up here. It's cold, it's windy, but it's really not unbearable. That said, I don't think I'm gonna spend a whole lot of time up here. I'm gonna look for a summit register, take some good slow motion footage for my beer review, and then get somewhere a little more sheltered for the wind. Okay, I walked over to the west side of the summit ridge just to see if there was anything here, because this was the point that was actually marked on Google Maps as the peak, even though it's obviously not the highest point. I was just curious, maybe there's a marker or register or something over here. Looking to the north, well, right there in front of us, center of the screen, are the Cerrillos Hills. We have the mountains in Santa Fe. You can't really see Santa Fe because it's a dark day. Scanning left, you can maybe make out San Antonio Mountain, maybe even, I think, Cerro de la Olla, way out there in the valley. And there's the Jemez Caballo Lake, Cochise Lake. And then we got a lot of cloud coverage, you can't really see much. It's amazing that this is like the only point on the mountain that's not getting snowed on, it looks like, or the only point in the state. Then we have Sandias. You can kind of see the ski Sandia area. Going left, the Manzanos. And that might be Gallinas Peak out there, I'm not totally sure. A really beautiful area. But it is actually frigid up here. I lied when I said it wasn't that cold. My hands are freezing. Just to hammer home the immense beauty of these P2K peaks. Cleared up a little bit. You can definitely see Ladrone Peak peeking out there behind the Sandias. And then I know you can see that because I can see it. You can see South Baldy. Those are the Magdalenas. So where I was a month ago, or a little over a month ago, you can see that's in southern New Mexico. You can see it from here, from Ortiz Mountain or Placer Mountain. And so I can see both peaks that I hiked, San Antonio Mountain and South Baldy. Very awesome. Okay, well I think I'm gonna skedaddle down the mountain here in a minute. So thanks for joining me, and see you next time.